Hello, Maria. Really, it's an absolute pleasure. And I'm really looking forward to going to Miami to FinTech Americas. So this is just like a little bit of a teaser. So first, I want to know, why did you exist as FinTech America?
FinTech Americas has a mission. The mission is to do the industry in Latin America more agile, more efficient, and above all, more inclusive. And I think with that in mind is that we have developed, a conference as well as a big community with more than 75,000 members to try to provide answers to that questions, to showcase the success cases, what is happening in other parts of the region, so others can just see and copy that. I believe that's the reason, that's the legacy that we would like to leave for FinTech Americas.
I like that because I believe in purpose, of course, right? Yes, purpose driven FinTech. Um, yeah, I think you guys have it's an important mission because Latin America, we're all from Latin America here, but Latin America it's an amazing region, but it has a lot of inequality. That's it. It's hurtful. It has a ton of inequality. People who are lucky enough to be born or to grow into the size that you are like, okay, I think we have a social responsibility that it's okay. We need to help everyone else to build it up and be okay rather than continue to with that inequality. But it's not easy. Ray, what are the biggest challenges that we have as an industry in LATAM?
I think one of the biggest and most important challenges we have is financial education. And attached to that is trust in the financial system. Latin America roughly has around 50% of its population that is under or unbanked. Bringing them into the financial services system is critical for the development of themselves individually, as families, and of course, in development of the country. The more people participate in the financial system, the more that the country can grow. And I think one of the big hindrances we have is trust in the financial services system. And so I think overcoming that is one of the big challenges that we face. And I think COVID, ironically, was a big accelerant of this. Because as you recall, when COVID hit, many governments distributed their support to the population through digital channels. This really has accelerated significantly adoption of the digital channels by people in the, citizens of the population. And at the same time, created trust. I think it has been something that has really helped accelerate and alleviate some of this trust issues that I think are a major impediment.
Like a very spot on point. We were talking about that at work today, because there is so much fraud. And I think you're right. Both in Latin America and in Southeast Asia, we saw during COVID, the governments were like, hey, we need to help people. And they used e-wallets and they used fintechs to distribute help instead of doing face-to-face cash, right? But I think as an industry, and this is as a global industry, fraud has been on the rise. So people do not trust. Even though we made some progress, then that progress, we've also gone back because of all the fraud. How? That's a difficult question. Like, how do we rebuild trust in the system when it's broken?
Financial services is inherently a trust business. That's the way it's created. Whether it is that you go to a bank and leave your currency to a teller who then puts it into a safe deposit box, it's all based on trust. So without trust, there is no financial services industry. I think because of the speed that we're living in today, the digital technical age that we are operating in, where everybody is living in and on their phones all the time. I think this is, the speed at which we have adopted the technology is faster than the speed at which we have adopted ourselves inherently into that trust. And so it's a challenge. I think it takes time. I think it takes work with the regulators, the industry working together with governments in order to educate the population of the way that this works. Obviously, collaboration amongst the not only institutions in the country, this is a global network. So really, it's a lot of the different parties participating and working together in order to ensure the safety of the system, educate the users of the system on the different frauds and the different types of crimes that can affect their savings and their money. And then really just taking time to use that collaboration and that education in order to continue to work to prove to the users that the system is reliable.
And also, Monica, I believe that the banks have always the trust from the very beginning. So then when all these fintechs start appearing, so that's why they start also collaborating with banks, because they know that the banks have the clientele and have also the trust of the people. It's easier that you trust that bank, although it can be connected to a fintech than going straight to a fintech. But the banks are taking the measures to try to cope with all these new things that are there every day.
Interesting, because if I think beyond Latin America, you would say in the UK, it's the opposite. Since the 2008 crisis, it's more like people do not trust banks. And then, therefore, fintechs had a little bit more leverage. But it's very interesting to see that while that has been the narrative in Europe, that way of thinking doesn't apply in LATAM. And this is important because many of the fintechs, like the successful ones, now they want to go global. And what we know is for a product to work in another region, we cannot just replicate. You need to localize. And that's a key for trust and localization.
Monica, I think one of the things that is banking as a business, as an industry, is hard. It is very difficult, and especially to do it at scale. The fintechs have come with very innovative processes, user experiences, but the fundamental business of either lending money and collecting money is a very difficult business at scale. And also, in order to maintain it and to manage it, it's highly regulated. I think this is one of the challenges that the industry has, and the regulation in most part is good especially for the consumers. I think that one of the things that we have seen is that the fintechs came out very early and demonstrated innovation. And I think that coming out of the 2008 crisis, I think everybody was somewhat burned with their view of the banking system. But a lot of these institutions have lasted as long as they have because they know how to successfully manage the banking in business. And I think that's what Maria says. I think one of the things that we look at FinTech Americas is how we can bring collaboration. We look at the relationship between the banks and the fintechs as frenemies. They're friendly where it works for both of them, and then they're competitors where it doesn't. And this is fantastic for consumers because it has spurred on new products, new user experiences. But at the same time, we're trying to figure all of this out in real time. This is a living, breathing industry that is critical to global commerce, to national commerce. So it's something that we want to see a lot of disruption. We want to see a lot of innovation, but we want to see it managed carefully in a way that is constructive to especially the end consumers.
And for the banks, a great advantage, because imagine the time to market when they partner with a fintech versus doing themselves. And the fintechs are amazing and doing one thing, but doing it perfectly right. So that also has helped a lot to improve whether financial inclusion, whether in remittances, whether in many areas.
And I think that's the beauty, right? Because if I summarize what you just said, it's, hey, we have the big banks and they have the capital, the resources, the expertise, the customers many times. Well, what they do not have is the agility that it's coming back to Maria's point at the beginning. They don't have the agility, nor the ways of working, nor the culture to go fast, break, make it amazing. Just low, no.
Not only the agility, but the efficiency, because one of the big challenges that we have seen in Latin America with traditional banking is that the infrastructure that exists in these banks, the large branch networks, all of the employees, it's very effective, but it's very inefficient. And one of the things that we have been always looking to evangelize is how technology can create efficiency in order to bring down the cost of transactions and then make banking and financial services much more accessible. Because the traditional way, again, while it works for a certain segment of the population, it is a very expensive infrastructure. And we know in Latin America, there's a large part of the unbanked or underbanked are on the lower side of the economic pyramid. And they simply don't have the resources, and it's not a good business for the bank, and it's not a good business for these customers. And this is where the efficiency and the agility that we're looking to promote, and where the infusion of the innovation and tech-centric approach of fintechs makes it efficient enough for anyone on this economic scale of pyramid to be able to participate in the financial services industry.
So now let's go a little bit deeper. I spoke with your team the other day, basically.
Okay.
They were me. FinTech Americas is not just a conference for LaTam financial services. It's more than that. And it's more than digital transformation. What I understand is that your thinking is that LaTam is about a change in paradigm, and it's about an infinite adaptation paradigm as such. Of course, we had this conversation in Spanish, so hopefully I didn't butcher everything when I did my translation. Can you tell us about what is this shift in paradigm? And can you go a little bit deeper?
I believe, Monica, you nailed it. This isn't just about digital transformation. It's about a complete shift in the way financial institutions think, operate, and serve people. And in Latin America and like everywhere, adaptation isn't a one-time event. It's a constant, infinite.
Yeah, Maria, exactly. We call it the infinite adaptation paradigm because the region, and I think not only the region, globally, it doesn't have the luxury of a slow, linear change. And when you're dealing with economic volatility, regulatory shifts, and rapidly evolving consumer expectations, adaptation has to be baked into the DNA of financial services here. I think transformation, looking at it, almost by definition has an end state. You go from transform from A to B. And we think that this is permanent. You're always going to be adapting as the environment is changing.
And I think believe that what's fascinating is that the most successful banks and fintechs aren't just throwing technology at problems, but they are thinking their entire approach. They are bringing resilience into their business models, embedding financial inclusion, and meeting people where they are. That believe that's one of the most important things that we can do to serve people.
Which is, no, I was just going to add that this is exactly why FinTech Americas, like Miami 2025, our conference is we believe such a critical space, because it allows for leaders to come together to decode what comes next and for them to share strategies and help shape the future. We believe that by this sharing, and particularly this peer-to-peer connection, it really accelerates the whole process across the region. Because in the region, you just don't transform. You have to continuously adapt, innovate, and evolve.
Yes, I agree with you on that. But I love conferences. I'm biased. I'm biased. But I think it is the magic happen because it's not a classroom. is magic happens in these conferences because you meet with peers that are equally passionate about the topic. And at work, we tend to be like hyper focused, hyper stressed. And then the conference is a place to go and play in a way that it's, hey, I have new ideas that I'm not going to
Yeah.
brainstorm with my friend. I'm going to brainstorm with people geek like me that are passionate about that. And that's why it's an accelerator, because if you have the space where people who are passionate about the same topic, they go and they can have all these fun conversations and peer-to-peer conversations. Well, that's powerful, I think. But Maria, I wanted to go back to financial inclusion because it's a key topic for LATAM and for FinTech Americas as well. You mentioned that some of the banks or fintechs in LATAM, they are making financial inclusion core to what they are doing. How does it look like?
Again, when we focus for me only on technology, we risk creating solutions that are disconnected from the human needs, and that widens the inequalities instead of closing them. Um, I think in LATAM, the challenge isn't just to innovate, but just to do with empathy. Millions remain underserved, not because technology isn't available, but because the technology hasn't been designed with their realities in mind. We were having a conversation with Ray, and then true progress happens when we understand human behaviors and socioeconomic context, and then you develop products and things that can serve this underserved population that we have, doing the technology more human in a way.
We are 100% aligned. I think like that too. I want to build a little bit on that. So we're saying, hey, technology is not just about technology, it's about being more human. But at the same time, today, technology is also changing us as a society, right? And I'm talking more like AI and blockchain, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. There's fear, but there's also opportunity. Like Ray mentioned, there's customers are changing, there's unknowns, uncertainty. So how do we ensure that as an industry, not just as a bunch of individuals with an innovative mindset, but as an industry in Latin or the world, because this is worldwide, how do we change behaviors of the people working in the banks and the fintechs to ensure that actually we're more human?
Monica, I think this is one of the biggest conversations that not only are we having now, but we've been having now for a couple of years. I think when we started FinTech Americas, our initial inclination was it was about technology. And we saw this rush to technology and we were in awe of a lot of the technology. But then as the situation continued to evolve and we started seeing this being implemented and some of the challenges that the industry was facing, we knew that it was much more than that we then needed to talk about. Everybody got lost in the technology, and then we are running back to find the humanity in it. There's pressure to digitize everything, automate everything, and then chase the latest technology. We're always in awe. And at FinTech Americas, we look at, of course, we see like you mentioned, blockchain and artificial intelligence and all of that value that those technologies can bring. But I think it could be easy to forget the human element. And I think it has to first begin with leadership. And I think that it's about leadership understanding, the technology, and then understanding the human side. We always say no one ever comes to a bank or goes to a bank for a financial transaction or to be awed by technology. They go for a very human need. There's always something. There's an aspiration that they're hoping the bank can help them with, or there's a challenge that they hope that the bank can help them with. And so it all begins. The reason why people show up, why they're customers, is not for technology, it's for human needs. And I think understanding and beginning there about the person and the need behind that person, that's how you begin to solve. And then how do you use technology or tools that are being brought to the table to help this institution, help this customer with their human approach and their human need?
Yes, too often business like they focus this on technology as the end goal rather than a way to solve human problems. So are we serving people, improving lives? Are we in the financial well-being? Do we care about that?
Yeah. And those are great questions that we will discuss in Miami in just
Oh, yes.
a few weeks' time.
Yes, a few
So
weeks' time. It's in a month.
super excited to meet you guys face to face. And can you tell us more? When is FinTech Americas and where we can get the ticket?
It's March 18 to 20 at the Fontainebleau in Miami Beach. We have many things. This is the festivalization, right, of the FinTech Americas because there are many things happening, more than 20 tracks that people can choose. Also, we have an Insure Americas initiative. We have a FemTech initiative, Monica, so we can choose for that too. Yes, we have a matchup, the biggest networking in Latin America. We have for CEOs a leader track. So what else? What I'm missing, right? Oh, the
Well, as Maria says, that we're looking at the festivalization of FinTech Americas, where we're going to have 3 stages this year. There's going to be a podcast booth where you're going to be recording some of your podcasts with some of our attendees, and we're, as Maria said, we had Matchup Americas, which this year we're focusing heavily on networking because, as we mentioned earlier, we believe that sharing the peer-to-peer connection, the ability to bring people together to have meaningful conversations is a critical component to what we're trying to achieve at FinTech Americas. So that's going to be a major piece of it. The 3 stages are going to have 21 different tracks. So we're looking at all of the financial services and the insurance industry from a very granular perspective. So whether it's artificial intelligence or digital banking or cybersecurity, there's different components because we think that by breaking it down in granular ways, the different participants can look at the different pieces that are all critical part of the infinite adaptation puzzle. And then we have the FemTech initiative, which, Maria has led this year, the creation of this approach for us to bring together women from across the region in order for them to network and find mentoring relationships and connection that can really help accelerate the growth of their participation in the infinite adaptation of the industry in Latin America. And then, of course, we have our leadership track, which is a program that we do with McKinsey, where we bring in CEOs from across the region and they have their own parallel conference within a conference where they're having discussions on some of the issues that you just were talking about. How do you lead in an era of technological disruption and change and still bring the humanity into their leadership? So all of this is going on together. And finally, we are bringing the Insure Americas, which is a new track that we have created because we believe that Latin America, the same way that digital transformation has lagged and we have 50% unbanked and underbanked, only 3% of the region participates in insurance industry. And so we think that this is another area that needs an amazing amount of focus in order for us to help bring these services and capabilities to the people and help evolve and transform the financial services industry in the Americas.
And Monica, and to end each day, of course, we have 2 parties, the welcome party and the farewell party, because of course, after a hard day of working, everybody needs to just have some fun and connect from a different place.
Because then when we have fun, we are more creative because the mind is just relaxed and the ideas connect and you're like, oh my God, I just had the best idea. That's how innovation happens. It's not chilling in the dry office. Well, it's been an absolutely pleasure speaking with you both. It was supposed to be a very short conversation. We've done a whole podcast episode out of this. So it's been amazing, guys. Looking forward to seeing you in Miami, and all the very best.
Yes.
Thank you, Monica.
you very much for this opportunity.